Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm back again, round number two, with your man, the myth, the legend, Crispy Man.
Here we go, man.
What's
I'm
up,
still
buddy?
I'm still grooving out to the kind of like jazzy
Yeah,
rolling sloth, man.
I saw you dance a little bit in the background. It made me happy.
I'm having fun.
Mhm.
Hey, Red Squirrel. Oi.
Hey, Red Squirrel's always in the house. Yeah, that's
Oh,
right, Red Squirrel.
boy.
Double sloth, man. This is I think my first double header I've ever done.
Double the
Two great
warrior,
guests.
double the
Let's
sloth.
see. Yeah, man. How you been, Crispy Man? How's
I'm
everything been?
doing good. Doing good. I'm making
Yeah.
it. I'm making it. How about you? You loving it?
Dude, I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great on this nice Sunday afternoon. Just trying to get some content out. I just came back from yesterday, the Charlotte meetup on the Pulse Chain tour
Oh, nice, nice. How'd
that
that go?
RG's doing. Dude, it was great, man. I got to meet RG. I got to see Black Hexagon again. I met her in Vegas with the crypto mindset meetup stuff, and
Sure.
then I got to meet SJ. That was cool. Big shout out to
I'd like to meet her.
yeah.
RG's a lot taller than in person. Yes.
Yeah, he's taller than me. He's actually taller
Yeah.
than me.
For all the crap he took. He's
Yeah.
just a
Yeah,
he's just a regular guy, man. Just a
yeah.
regular guy.
No, we were joking around. It's like me and him get a picture together, and I'm gonna get all the memes because I'm shorter than him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, man, it was a lot of fun. I think they're doing great work. Had a nice solid turnout, about 14 people. So I was really happy about that. I just gave like a little 15-minute intro, nothing too crazy. And then him and Rags to Riches, Brandon, they both gave some like an hour-long talk.
Yeah,
So
I saw some of the pictures
yeah,
on your X, man.
yep.
Yeah.
I'm
I
about to
don't know.
post some other pictures after the stream.
Whoa. I don't know. It depends what you're going to be putting up there, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was well. You like this pulse chain? I'll tell you. I'll tell you. Wish somebody would explain to me what the F is going on with PDI, Atropa, WBTC. I'll look at a little degen flavor. So I've been holding those things for a long time. Not the
Mhm.
Atropa, but the other two, just because, or when we first got in, I picked some up, and I hear people explaining to me what's going on, but I don't understand what's happening. Other
Yeah,
than demand causes price to go up, right? That's
I didn't
about
know
it.
that. That's actually news to me.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I haven't been looking into that stuff all that much to be actually really at all. There seems to be some mechanisms or like fundamentals behind it, which is why like people are speculating on it, or at least like the narrative that's being pushed out by the community. But I haven't looked at it too much. I think I heard the Itropa dev put out another token today. I think they like stealthily launched stuff. So I don't know. I mean, obviously it's doing well, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it? That's what I mean. I know the price go up. That much I can see. So
Yeah.
I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I'm not trying to encourage people to degen. I'll stick to stuff I can clearly understand because it's much less complicated, like Icosa,
Yeah.
Hex, Hedron.
Well,
Uh,
yeah.
uh,
Well, I will say I got to commend you, man. You were on that PDI stuff early, not like with like narrative stuff, but like remember early on, you're like, yeah, I'm just like picking up some PDI for fun, like a nice DGM play, and hey, look at that, man. You hit that your number hit.
yeah, I mean, if it goes. Well, that's how this stuff works, right? Because nobody really knows what's happening
Yeah.
with this stuff. I mean, so what was my basis back then? I think I mentioned to you what I was thinking about. I was just
Mhm.
simply saying, hey, listen, we got a brand new chain. Everybody, if you were looking at a chain and it said wrap BTC, what do you want? You want it to be wrap BTC at that price.
Mhm.
That was, and it didn't have to make sense. It was just kind of like a bullshit play.
Yeah.
The same thing with PDI, right? And then again, just thinking that, particularly since it appeared the OA had so much dye, that PDI, but had no idea. I had no idea whether it would come up or not. And I still wonder because I'm not sold on the fact that either of those will just keep going up and get to some sort
Mhm.
of like parity. But here's the thing is they do exist on Pulse Chain and they are tradable and people
Yeah.
can speculate. And so they do. And so
Yeah.
but I'll gladly accept, by the way, $1 PDI,
I
100%.
will as well. I took a little $50 punt about a week or two ago. Just like, hey, if it goes to $1, I got like 15 grand or something like that. We'll see. It's fun. I'm personally glad that there's at least some meme coin activity, some volume happening on the chain. That's not just like the Pulse X hex stuff. Just a little stuff to talk about. Get some people in the meme communities like outside. So I think they host some spaces and stuff. So they're probably getting some Twitter people coming over that are like in meme coin spaces in general. So like, hey,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know people who listen to my streams, they know I'm focused on the RH ecosystem.
Yep.
But I've said this before, and this is kind of my position. You need to have, I look at it as business models. I have different business models in my head. So I can wear my RH maximalist hat, and that's what I'm talking about. That's where, I'm doing things a certain way. But Pulse Chain is a reality, and I got to wear a different hat when I'm thinking about Pulse Chain. And it's a little hard sometimes to keep it all together because the way I'm going to act, with Pulse Chain is different than I'm going to act with the hex pairs and the hex ecosystem. But it's necessary. So with my Pulse Chain hat on, who couldn't be excited that we got this action? People are excited. They're seeing green candles. It doesn't feel like the world's ending. People are having fun. It appears, anyways. Maybe there's some losers out there too. But anyways, with my Pulse Chain hat on, I like it. I like the action.
Yeah, same. Here's I guess for the first little topic, I got a nice question from Hex Magist. How pumped are you on Tetra? I know I am, and I know my wife certainly is for me to stop pushing all these buttons all the time every day. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, we got a Dundee
super
block.
pumped.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, Andy.
I'm pumped for it, man. I think it'll be a fun new space for me to delve into in terms of like producing stuff for my audience, like producing scripts as things start coming out on Pulse Chain. So, and also like he said, just having to click less buttons, just being able to do stuff, because I've noticed for me, like the longer I've been in crypto, the less I want to actually interact with the blockchain, like clicking all these buttons and like moving things around. Like I kind of, especially since I've sequestered a lot of it in like hardware wallets, a separate computer, like it takes a lot of effort to like actually get into like my like deep crypto holdings. And I just don't want to do it. Like it just takes a lot of effort,
Sure, me too. I can see that. I mean, because I feel like I should be limiting what I'm doing because I don't want to be a 10,000 transaction guy. But that's happening, right? I mean, maybe not to me, but a lot of other people doing that. So I should say this. Of course, I hold Tetra.
Same.
But I only hold it because of you. You prompted me to do it. Well, I guess to be fair, it's because of Stu. But I knew about their project early on, and so I did participate a little bit. I didn't go in the seed round or anything like that, but I didn't pick up like a big position on it until you kind of prompted me to, and then I've just been holding ever since. So
yeah, I've heard a couple people like that one stream I did when it first launched, and I was talking about it. There's multiple people saying, like, yeah, that's the stream when I bought it, and then a lot of people who bought on that stream got like a 3 to 4x on it, like pretty quickly.
Yeah, and now you have staking out there, so I've staked mine, and so I'm just kind of sitting on it, waiting for it to launch. I'm super excited for it, and my use case is like you guys watching, gonna laugh, man. My use case is DCA into hex. That's my use case.
Yeah, that's an awesome use case, though.
But it's a good one because I'm just trying to solve simple problems. Like I said. So for me, a problem for me. So I think I've mentioned on stream to you a bunch of times, maybe or in private. I DCA every day into ETH. But I do it through Robinhood. Yes, it's a centralized kind of exchange, and yes, it's not real crypto, right? But I have an account there. It's easy to fund, and I don't even think about it. I just buy. I forget what it said. I just buy $3 of ETH every single day, and I don't think about it. I don't have to come back to it. I mean, the amount is such that I'm getting reasonable value out of it, rather, like, they talk about fees and stuff. There's no straight up fee, but I have to pay
Mhm,
whatever the exchange price is for their price.
mhm,
Um, and what I love about that is the simplicity. Like, I can
mhm.
just say, I want a little bit more every day, and I want to be able to do that on the blockchain. Now, of
Yep.
course, I can manually do that on the blockchain, but it requires me to go concentrate on it, right? I'd rather be able to load that up and just say, hey,
Mhm.
just for the next year, just buy a certain little bit of X every single day, and just DCA that way. And maybe it'd be different periodicity, but anyways, that's my simplified version of it.
Mhm.
Now I do caution people, because I've been in the automated reporting business for a while. We used to send emails and stuff, and I've gotten a call from the head of IT more than once about sending 100,000 emails by accident. So
Mhm.
sometimes, so what I was going to say, sometimes these automated tools may not do what you expect them to do, or conditions
Yep.
change. So I'll be watching kind of carefully. And it's not necessarily the tool, but I mean, you might assume certain things about the
Yep.
systems and how they work, and so it's going to be necessary to really fully vet what we do. Like, I
Mhm.
don't want to empty my wallets. Like, you see sometimes, like, I'll give you a great example. I don't know if you saw some of the posts about this. We've had some volatility in pulse prices, right?
Mhm.
And or in pulse gas prices,
Gas fees. Yeah, I
and
saw that.
in gas fees, right? And so day over day over day, we got these bots running out there that are doing like these microtransactions, right?
Mhm.
And they've been getting away with it with the gas. But all of a sudden now they're getting hit with 100x, 200x the value of the transaction, which obviously is a
Mhm.
loser, right? Because it doesn't matter how much profit they're getting on a penny. If they're paying 10 cents,
Yep.
they're not getting it. So
Yep.
yeah, but all that being said, I'm waiting for this. I can't wait for it to come out. I want to see how it's going to work.
Yeah, I think it's going to change a lot, and I think you bring up a good point on, like, automation is great. It takes a lot of thinking out, kind of like Red Squirrel is saying, automation is zero motion. Make a plan and stick to it. But there is like there's user error involved when you set up things and let it just run on its own. Unforeseen consequences, unforeseen circumstances that have ramifications that you just didn't plan on when you automate it. So it's probably a good idea for most people to stick to like really simple things, like your thing about DCAing into hex. I think that's a great script to have, because you can essentially have a wallet that's like your Robinhood account, where every time you bring money into like your main wallet, you send a little bit, whatever you want to DCA, you send it out to that wallet. It's like, hey,
Yep.
I want this $1,000, this $1,000 I want to go into hex, but I want it to go over, I want it to be in this account that's buying $5 of hex every day. And
Right.
instead of buying the $1,000 right now, so you can just send it to that wallet, and in the background it's just buying slowly every single day,
Well,
which is great.
sure, sure. And to simplify it even further, right? I mean, you do it in Pulse, and then
Yep.
you're not even worried about necessarily value oracles, right?
Hmm.
Particularly if I don't care about the price. Like, I don't, like, I do degen a little bit. I get a little Sheeb and a little bit of Doge comes in every day with my Ethereum.
Hmm.
But but if I'm not concerned about what's happening with price at all. I'm not, because I know that right now DCA works because we're at the
Hmm.
bottom, right?
Yep.
And so likely at the bottoms ish, right? And so
Closer
even
to the bottoms than a year ago. We're
yeah,
closer to the
I
bottom.
think maybe right. And so yeah, I would just load that sucker up and just keep going. And
Yep.
the emotion definitely, like Red Squirrel saying, definitely takes the chance that I'll veer off path,
Hmm.
you know. And for that matter, right? Um, you have the other way around. You could be doing this too, for those who want to actually DCA out. Once you push the button, you just let that
Hmm.
thing go and take that emotion out, because damn if it ain't hard to sell for a profit. I don't care who you are.
Yep.
And I mean, there's a few people,
Hmm.
they're well trained, but otherwise, you watch these things come up, and that's what I was watching this WBTC thing, because that was fun.
Hmm.
Because that went up to what, $170, right? Now, how
Hmm.
many people got in at 25 bucks or less, right?
Hmm.
And watch that thing go up to 171, and we're like, now there's legs on this. I can't sell 20% of it. I can't swap it because I'm going to miss the next 100x, and then boom, it's down like 10% or something, right? Rather
Yep.
than having caught that. Now, sure, we know that it's a game of chances, meaning that it could go back up before it comes back down, but
Hmm.
it's still a hard decision to sell for a profit, which is why so many people wait too long.
Yep, 100%. And even with like the Tetra scripts, you can build within the same DCA tool, you can build it where you say if the hex is under this price, DCA. If hex is above, DCA in. If hex is below this price, DCA in. If hex is above this price, DCA out, right? And so you could just have it basically say it's like 3 cents. Below 3 cents, I'm buying. Above 3 cents, I'm DCAing out every day, like a dollar value or a certain amount of hex. You know, so I
Yeah,
think those scripts would be very useful.
yeah, I think so too. Now, I think if anybody's been paying attention, we know that there are bots you can get to go do this. So this is kind of like a non-dev bot.
Yep, exactly.
This is more like low code, no code
Yep, it's the no
bot
code movement kind of stuff.
contract. Yeah, because
Yeah,
like I don't know enough to build a bot, but I know enough. I probably could, but I don't
yeah,
right now. Like it's not like something like you said, hey, Crispy, can you go build a bot? And I'm gonna go build one. There's people we know that do this, right? We
yep,
know people in the ecosystem. But with the protocol, as I understand it, it is going to be that easy. You're just going to go click and
yeah.
drag and then point, and you'll be done. You don't need no Slothman, no ChrispyMan to do it.
Exactly.
You
So yeah,
do it yourself.
I'm excited for it, and I guess that kind of that'd be a good segue into our first like general topic is like all the because this is something we've been talking about in the background a while, which is like the fire movement, and then how we can kind of take those concepts to guide our investments in Hex and Pulse Chain overall.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because that's where your name comes from, the Hex Fire, right? Financial
That-
independence,
That's
retire
right.
early. Yeah.
That's right. I'm on fire. I'm on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've done this thing fire for a while now. It's almost 10 years. And like you said, financial independence, retire early. What is that about?
Hmm.
Basic steps are get your house in order, make sure you got
Yep.
your, make sure you got your four walls covered, take care of yourself, your family, that type of stuff. Make sure that
Hmm.
you are in a position where you're not paying, like a slave 30% APY to somebody because you had to buy something, right? And getting
Hmm.
all that set up and then turning towards investment. And then, there's a lot of argument about these numbers, but these are the base numbers. Meaning a lot of
Hmm.
people argue you need a lot more than this. I love this because I've done the coaching for about 5 years on this with people. And
Hmm.
oh man, this is a hard one. So outside in TradFi or TradFi or whatever the hell
Hmm.
you want to call it, outside out in traditional finance, right? You'll hear people say, "Oh, you need at least $1 million to retire," someday,
Hmm.
and then you'll hear others say, "No, no, no, that's wrong. It's like 5 million. You need 5 million." Dude, you know how many people when I talk to somebody who's like underwater and they're like,
Yeah.
I need to come up for air, and I'm like, yeah, and they're like, well, what do I need someday to retire? And you're like, you need $1 million. Their eyes glaze over and they go instantly to F it,
Yep.
which is like this condition people have, we all have, right? Fuck this,
Yeah.
F this. I am never going to get there, right? Because
Hmm.
it's so hard to get your head around those kind of numbers, and so then
Hmm.
they opt for doing nothing.
Yep.
And the thing is for most people, and again, try not to group everybody together. For most people, $1 million in their lifetime is achievable, but it ain't fast.
Hmm.
Not in traditional finance.
It takes the lifetime. It takes
Yeah,
the whole
yeah. I mean,
lifetime, basically. Yep.
it could take you 7, 8 years, and
Hmm.
it depends on your structure because if you end up in a good situation, like all right, well, I'm gonna make some guesses, right? If you're getting ready to go to school and you're in school, maybe initially you're doing like 20, $30,000 a year that you're making, and then maybe you can capture like 40, $50,000, but you go to school and then all of a sudden you're able to get a six-figure salary, and
Hmm.
That's a pretty big salary. Well, if you're living like you're still making 30 or 40, you have a huge opportunity, right? Which so
Yep.
spending plays a big part in that. And so thumb rule is typically this is if you came out and said, hey, listen, every year I need $50,000 a year because so someday I'm going to retire and my
Hmm.
expenses are going to be $50,000 a year. You use the rule of 25.
Hmm.
And the rule
Yep.
of 25 is you multiply that by 25, and that tells you, quote unquote, what you need to have in net worth in traditional finance. And
Hmm.
that's based on a conservative 4% withdrawal rate.
Yep.
And so that 25x, if you withdraw it at 4%, guarantees that you'll never, 99.9% of the time in the models, guarantees you'll never run out of money.
Yep.
Because past performance of the stock market and everything shows that if you just withdrew 4% per year, you would always maintain the principal.
Yep.
Now that's kind of like that's like a best case scenario for
Hmm.
for things. But again, I mean, even what's 50,000 times 25? Was that 1.5 million? Is that what it
Yeah.
is?
Something like that. Let
So
me. I'll
yeah,
do it real
yeah,
quick.
yeah. I did too. So if you 50K times
Times
25,
25.
yeah, it's 1.
1.25 mil.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
That's a
pretty
lot.
hefty amount, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and so that's where that came from in my head. And then once you get into investing, because then you look for investments, eventually I found my way towards crypto, right? And
Hmm.
that's where I talk about incorporating crypto into that. Which, by the way, the fire people almost like
I hate it.
99% of the time hate crypto,
Hate
man.
crypto.
Hate it,
Yeah.
hate it, hate it.
These are S&P 500 ETF guys. They're not playing in this casino.
Yeah, yeah. It's so funny. You can find maximalists in every community. Yeah.
Right.
Their method is the right method, and
I
that's it.
think they blow an aneurysm if you started talking about hex and fire together. Like, it's like
Mm.
you can't do this. This is a Ponzi. With it, get out of here with that. You'll lose all
Yeah.
your money.
Well, I'm trying to prove that I can do it.
Yeah.
Because that's what I've done. Actually, I've proven it to myself, but I like to be able to prove it to other people at some point.
Hmm.
And the way I've always looked at it with Hex is at the most conservative. I think you can do it. Yeah, I think you can do what you need to do with 3 times less the capital,
Hmm.
and that's without price appreciation. And that's just because the rate of growth is such that you can invest that capital, and the yield or the rewards will outpace what happens in traditional finance. But
Yep.
again, when I got into crypto, man, it was my in was like a 1% deal, man. It wasn't like
Hmm.
10% or 100% or 50% of my savings, which is a small percentage because it is highly volatile and risky, right? Because you can go to
Yep.
zero.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think for me, I've taken a lot of those concepts from fire. Maybe not so much the numbers, because I know the core of the community is basically that ratio between expenses, income, and then like that 25x of money that you have to be able to live year to year. It's like that's like the base. That's how they frame everything. On like, this is where you're trying to get to, set the kind of like lifestyle you want to live, and then if you get this much amount in your portfolio, then like you can retire. But a lot of what they talk about are like methods on how to save money, methods on how to grow your income, and stuff like that. And for me, I've taken a lot of those concepts and at least the ethos behind it to like apply to like how do we manage our portfolio, and like manage our risk to be able to extract the most value, or at the very least build and accumulate the most value to eventually turn that into an income stream that can be used to support your lifestyle. And I think Hex falls into that pretty easily just because it produces a native yield. Like it's very easy to plug in Hex into that paradigm because like you can do 30-day monthly stakes, for instance, and produce a monthly income. And so it's like, okay, how much Hex do I need right now to produce X amount of dollars when Hex is at whatever price, right? And then that can set a guideline for how much you want to accumulate now, so that whenever we start hitting those price points, you know that you've secured at least this amount of income.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
like that's one of the first things that like I started using to calculate, like, well, how much hex do I actually want, or how much do I need relative to where I think the price can go in the future.
Right, right, right. Yeah, and I call that hex flow.
Hex, yep.
Yeah, a hex
Hex.
flow kind of approach. Now, what do you
Mhm.
think is what do you think is more likely? You can reduce your costs low enough
Mhm.
to make a difference in what you're doing, or that you can increase your earnings, which is more
Yeah,
likely?
I think increasing your earnings. That's where me personally,
Mm.
I want to focus more of my attention on. And it's the classic, like, you can only bring down your expenses so much. It's kind of like the difference between like longing and shorting in a lot of ways, where it's like
Yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
shorting, you can only make 100%, but you can lose everything. But with longing, the upside is the highest, or like you can only lose your principal. You can only go down 100%, but you can go up an infinite percent theoretically,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah. I
kind of
was
that, it's kind of that same concept.
I was baiting you. I was baiting you on
Yeah.
that, because that's exactly how it is, right? Because that is the truth, right? And I was pretty proud of the fact I got to the point in my career that I was like 50% savings rate,
Oh, that's awesome.
and
I know, because they
yeah, it
shoot for like
was
30%. Is that kind of a good
uh,
number that
it was
informs?
insane. Now the structure would helped me do that, the type of business I was in, but like crazy. And I'm not saying everybody has to do that at all, of course not. But yeah, I mean, you got to take care of your family yourself, and by that I mean, you take care of your four walls, right? And you make sure you got your bills paid and all that stuff,
Yeah.
um and then at some point, like you said, I mean, you got to live life, right?
Yeah.
So you have some expenses, but you go out and pick up a side gig or something,
Hmm.
you can do so much more with just some simple activities and stuff. I mean,
Hmm.
most people, most areas of the US anyways, you can make 15-20 bucks an hour driving Amazon, driving Uber, or doing,
Hmm.
any of these gig economy things,
Hmm.
so you can pick up a lot of extra cash and get ahead.
Yeah. And I mean, well, I guess 2 points for that. We'll start with this one. The one thing you have to keep in mind with that when you're focusing on increasing your income is to watch out for lifestyle creep. Because once you start making more money, then you can all of a sudden start buying more things. And if you start buying more
Yeah,
things,
yeah.
taking on more obligations, and all of a sudden, well, it doesn't matter that you five extra income, because you've also five extra expenses. So you're in the exact same
Sure,
spot as you
sure.
were before, just at a higher level theoretically. So that's like the main, I think, and I think they talk about that in some like the Reddit forums. Like one of the big pitfalls is like keep your lifestyle the way it is while also increasing your income. That's kind of how you make the ratios work in your favor.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. There's all sorts of psychological things that come along with, unfortunately, that
Yeah.
type of work too, because you believe it or not, just like in crypto, very hard to sell your assets. If you
Hmm.
spend a long period of time with a high savings rate,
Hmm.
you had to get there psychologically somehow.
Yep.
And once you're there and you've arrived, it's very hard to be like, no, screw it, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to sell, which eventually you have to do. And then,
Hmm.
like you're talking about, I think having too many creeps in your life is a bad thing, right? So try to
Yeah.
minimize the creeps, and yeah, particularly that.
Yeah.
I've done that a
Uh,
couple times. I've had a couple
mhm,
instances in my life. I've had lots of experience with stuff,
mhm,
but I mean, there were a couple times I was like, I can afford an extra 400 bucks a month for a car, and I went and did it.
mhm.
And then all of a sudden, a few months later, I was like, why did I do this?
Yep.
Because the 400 bucks wasn't as easy to come by as I thought it was going to be.
Yep. That brings up another good point, which is like the reliability of the income that you have, right? Like not all income is exactly the same. So like the money you're getting from your job versus maybe you have some kind of flash in the pan of it, or they call it windfall. Like you have a windfall of what's the most common kind, like inheritance. You have a windfall of inheritance, and that's like a form of income technically, but like you can't rely on it because you don't get those every single day. And so it's like what
Mhm.
kind of income are you also increasing really does matter. Because if you're doing like flash in the pan stuff or like one-off things, maybe you hit a good trade. Let's say you like to trade, or in the stock market, you buy a good stock, it goes up a little bit, or goes up a lot, and then you're like, well, I made this amount of money this month. Well, it's like, can you repeat that month after month after month? Like, how reliable
Yeah,
is it?
sure. Sure. Yeah, yeah. I think that's where with investments, they're a long game, just like crypto typically is. Typically, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know we got some people that can swing trade and all that, but you know, it's a longer type of a time frame, and it's not like every day you can depend on it. So there's a couple techniques against that, you know, to kind of work with that. Like Axis was saying in the chat, one of the things I really discovered, but I didn't discover this until I had assets,
Mm-hmm.
is that, you know, hey, listen, if I have my brokerage account, I can actually take money out against my brokerage account. Yeah, I got to pay an APY on it, which is
Mm-hmm.
borrowing, which is kind of against the whole debt thing. But
Mm-hmm.
in terms of cycle timing, you know, you're able to use that as collateral, you
Yep.
know, but you're always on the hook for it. You're always on the hook
Yep.
for it, but you do that. And then, of course, again, I'm not suggesting people go out and get HELOCs or anything like that, but you
Mm-hmm.
also have this ability, um, you know, with things like a house and whatnot to kind of like handle expenses over time without selling assets. And then
Mm-hmm.
there'll be some loaning protocols that'll eventually launch here on Pulse Chain,
Yep.
which could change a lot of things, man. If all of a sudden
Mm-hmm.
the loans is up, I certainly would be looking at that and how
Yep.
that might affect things. But you know, to your point about income streams, that's a good one, right? Because I've
Mm-hmm.
thought about this for the future. How do you decide how many income streams you need?
Mm-hmm. I guess
You know,
one way to frame it is like, if the pursuit of a new income stream is hindering one that you already have, that's probably a signal that you're spread too thin, right? If you're going out to find a new income stream and it's hurting one of them that you already have, and the new one isn't outpacing it, well, then it may not be worth pursuing a new one, and it may be worth trying to build up the one that you already have, potentially. There's, you could also frame it where it's like, well, maybe the second one that you have, or the third or fourth one that you're building, has the potential long term to get more than like your second one. And maybe it's worth letting that other one die off a little bit and look for a longer term game. But that's kind of where my head's at with that. It's like, do I want to sacrifice the income that I already have to pursue something else, and then maybe have this lag period where I have to build this new one up? Or should I just spend my attention focusing on the ones that I have and bolstering those up even more?
sure. So
Um,
you're saying prioritizing
Prioritization.
what
Yep.
you work on, you know, so that you're not
Yep.
wasting time and effort and resources on things. Sure,
Mm-hmm.
sure. I always looked at it like multiples. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
I was joking with the guys. It's serious for me, but I mean, you know, I think like I try to think in threes, and so I want to have I want to have a minimum of three income streams that cover my monthly
Mm-hmm.
expenses, and meaning that each one has the potential. Maybe it doesn't do it today, but each one has the potential. And then, you know, for to stick with the meme, you know, expand that to six, expand that to nine,
Mm-hmm.
um, which may be too complex, but hey, why not? You know, you kind of stretch that way because I figure if I have you know, nine different streams that cover, you know, most of my expenses in a bear,
Mm-hmm.
then during mid and bull, then that should be like blowing the hell
You're
out of it. I
chilling.
mean, yeah, I mean, even if you're making like $100 a day today,
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, you look at that. Some people might look and go, it's not that much. It's not that much, but it's still what 36 grand a year or something.
Yeah.
And you know, but at 100x, what's 100 times 100, man? That's 10,000. That's
Bucks.
10,000 a
Yep.
day.
You
And
can
so
do a lot with
maybe,
$10,000 a day.
yeah, and so the upside of that. And then you got a whole another problem. I think some of the guys talk about on streams like, what's your exit strategy? How do you actually pull that money out? But
Mm-hmm. Well, and then to expand on the point that Access said, I think crypto is actually a really good form of one of these one of these forms of income streams, because of all the different ways you can utilize the assets. I mean, like the ability to use, Hex, Pulse Chain, all of this stuff on all these protocols that we're launching to produce an income. Even like, you have your assets, and those assets are producing an income that you can fold into income in and of itself. right? So like say you have your 30-day hex ladder or 30-day hex, 30-day hex rolling stakes, and that's producing like $3,000 a month, something like that, right? Well, you can take that $3,000 a month and then throw that into an LP pool, and then now you're earning APR on top of the income that you got from your hex stakes. And so you can continuously compound that over and over until you want to skim off some of the money that you're making more downstream. So like you're building your assets with your assets, and then eventually get so big where you can start trimming it off pretty safely. And with things like Tetra, like we were talking about at the beginning, like you could really pacify that a lot by just writing the script that you want for the specific strategy that you have, and then it can just auto dump into your bank account.
Yeah,
Does that make
100%.
sense?
I'm thinking about that because I'm trying to think how many streams I have and how I want to count them, you know.
Okay.
Because it's true,
Oh
right? I
man.
mean, if I got if I got TradFi, so if I was outside of crypto,
Mhm.
what's probably most popular for people? Well, you can have your job,
Real
right? So
estate.
you're making money. And then you
Mhm.
can have investments and you're going to make some money. That might be an income stream, like going into
Mhm.
stocks and bonds, that type of stuff. But then a lot of
Mhm.
people talk about real estate, right? And then
Yep.
doing real estate to build that. That's an example. That is certainly an example what you're talking about, like time and resource, right? Because that could be too
Mhm.
intensive. But those are like couple, two or three outside, right? But
Mhm.
then we start looking at least the Richard Hart ecosystem. I'm thinking, I don't know if I guess I would want both hexes to actually be
Mhm.
streams, right? But
Mhm.
maybe you consolidate, just call them one thing. Same thing with Hedron and Icosa.
Mhm.
But aspiring to the point that someday, and I think of course we have so many new rules come with Hedron and Icosa. That by itself could be an area that might be able to provide you an income stream,
Yep.
just by itself. And of course, farming, validating,
Mhm.
hex mining, those are all possibilities, right?
Mhm. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to glean income from our crypto assets, which I think is pretty good. And like my goal personally for all of this stuff is just to have those assets accumulate so much where that income is like pretty substantial in my day to day life, and just keep rehypothecating, keep recompounding until the price comes to me basically, and now all of a sudden the income that I'm making is worth taking out versus just keep continuously compounding it or continuously adding to it.
Mm.
Um, Especially with skills like liquidity providing. Like if you're pretty apt at like providing liquidity, knowing how to do it, the different types of liquidity pools that exist, like you can really unlock a very high APRs based on that one skill set alone.
That's true with the farms and whatnot for sure.
Mhm.
Um, hey, one thing that worked, which I've seen work pretty good, is this. Let me ask you this question. So, what is a lot of money?
It's a good
What is
question.
what is a lot of money? Um,
I guess there's a couple ways you can answer that. You could obviously answer with a hard number, but maybe a more general answer. Um, One thing I've heard Alex Hormozy say is like, I want to help you make so much money where you question the meaning of making money. So it's like when you have so much money, you just question the meaning of like having it in the first place, or like you don't like where you no longer have to, I guess, worry about it or think about it. Like
mm,
when it becomes to a
mm,
point where it's like it's not a matter of money. It doesn't matter how much you pay for things. Like you don't even look at the numbers anymore because it's just so big. And I don't know what exactly the specific number would be, but if I wanted to give a definition more close to home, I'd probably say one where you can afford all the things that you want to do and not have to worry or think about the number that you're spending.
mhm,
And I
mhm.
think that makes it relative enough where it could be $10 million for one person, and then it could be $100 million for another person.
Yeah, sure.
Um, yeah.
I think that's
What
I
about you?
think that I think that's a real important process to go through.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know where would I start with this? Well, I'll tell you in my planning,
Hmm.
I experience a lot of anxiety and FOMO. All right, so like and so it's kind of macabre in a way, but there's only so much that you actually need,
Hmm.
and there's only so much time to actually accumulate stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so while I like the idea, talking with Axis, I like the idea of becoming a billionaire. That'd be nice. That'd be fun, right? Wouldn't that be
It'd be a
exciting?
lot of fun. Hmm.
Um, and I definitely want to become a decimillionaire, right?
Hmm.
But reality is I don't think I need to be either of those. But it would be fun,
Yeah.
right?
It would
And
be
believe
fun.
me, I could spend some money, right?
Hmm.
And go get myself into lots and lots of trouble. But
I
what's
think I've.
reality?
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Well, I think I've heard. I don't remember from where, but I think I've heard things where it's like after 25 million, it kind of doesn't matter anymore. Like about 25 million dollars, you can pretty much afford like everything for the most part. Anything that like vacations, luxury goods, being secure, private jets, like all of like the things that we think of like quintessential luxury lifestyle stuff.
Mhm.
Above 25 million, you don't really like the return. It's diminishing returns after that. Basically, that's what I've heard.
Sure, sure.
Obviously,
And
not from experience.
well, and from our conversation before, right? For some of the people listening to this, right?
Hmm.
I experienced an effort moment with the
Hmm.
25 million. What I mean is, if I get it in my head that I got to have 25 million, and then I'm looking at my what I'm doing,
Hmm.
I might take uh, too much risk on because I think that's the number that I really need when I don't need that. What I need is to make sure I got the 25x that
Hmm.
gives me the amount that I need on a regular basis, live a good life the way I want to live it. And then if fortune shines upon us in crypto and you get 100x and 25 million's fine, you know.
Hmm.
Um, but I think those are important. I actually had to start boiling it down because I was losing track of money in terms
Hmm.
of what was a lot. And so going all the way back to the beginning of this question. So I finally concluded that anytime I'm talking about like 10 grand or 20 grand, that's
Hmm.
a lot of money. Like 20 grand is a lot of money. And a lot of people might agree with that. And then there's a bunch of
Hmm.
saying that's not a lot. That's not a lot of money. And I
Hmm.
concluded that because I know way too many people that's how much money they make a year. There's 20 grand.
Hmm.
And so, in respect to that, I think that if I'm going to be transacting value at that high, then I ought to have the respect to understand that this isn't, house money.
Yeah.
This is 20K, and there's some people whose lives would be changed if they had access,
Yeah.
to that kind of funds. And I try to reset that. The other thing, and this is the macabre part, the other thing that came to mind when you were saying that is I'm much further in my career, right?
Hmm.
In fact, I'm semi-retired, right? And so um, the macabre part of it is, yeah, I'm not expecting to die anywhere anytime soon, but there is a limit to how much I could accumulate in wealth in traditional methodologies, right?
Hmm.
And so, why not remove that angst? Sure, have goals, have stretch goals, but I mean, be realistic about what's going on. I had to do that before I left
Hmm.
my work job because I was like, if I stay another 15 years, I'll be able to increase my retirement by 65%. And it's like,
Hmm.
really? Is that 15 years worth another
Worth it.
65%?
Hmm.
And 65, and then what do those numbers look like?
Hmm.
Because what are you going to do, right? What are you going to do with that? And, if you're going to work until and it's changing because everybody now is living a lot longer, but, just for sake of argument, if you're going to be working until you're over 70,
Hmm.
are you really going on those trips you thought you were going to go on?
Hmm.
You know,
Yep.
and there's something because people typically don't, and there's something in the research that they have for retirement. And this doesn't apply to early retirement guys, but it does somewhat. um, Normal retirees, they got about 6-7 years where they're doing stuff,
Hmm.
and then after that, they just don't. I mean, there's just so many things you could buy. There's just so many trips that you can go on. I mean, it's an effort to go
Hmm.
spend the money and do it. And by the time people are in their 80s and 90s, they may be putting out a lot of money because it might be in healthcare. but
Hmm.
their true expenses for life go way down. Think if you guys, if anybody watching has grandparents, just think about what they do. How
Hmm.
many of them are, holding big parties? I mean, there's probably some, but holding big parties, entourage
Hmm.
style Vegas trips.
Yep.
It's just,
International, like multi-country vacation stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah, you just start slowing down after a while.
Hmm. Yeah, and
So,
I think that brings up a great point to kind of juxtapose against like the spending versus income, increasing your income part of like the ratios, because you gotta, we're doing all of this to spend money eventually, right? And you're doing all these to accumulate, essentially you spend the money on experiences, things that you enjoy. And if you're just in accumulation mode your entire life, well, then you kind of miss out on the entire point of why you were doing this stuff in the first place. And so, at least for me, I never want to be scared to like spend money, or like, yeah, basically I never want to be scared to spend money, because that's kind of the point on like why we are accumulating money in the first place, to do the things that we want to do. And so,
100%. Yeah.
at some point you are like ingraining habits into yourself. If you're like, I'm not buying these coffees every day because that's an extra $1,600 I'm spending every single year, and that's going to be an extra $100,000 when I'm 70 for my retirement. And it's like, well, like maybe I just want to enjoy my coffee today, and like there's that, maybe that's worth that $100,000 when I'm 70, that I get to enjoy coffee, that I buy at Starbucks, which is like way overpriced. That's another like dimension to all of this, where it's like at some point you got to spend this money and like actually have experiences, because that's why we're accumulating money in the first place.
Yeah, my wife says that all the time. I'm sure there's a lot of I'm sure there's a lot of significant others out there who said, particularly during the Hex lifetime, "Hey, are we ever gonna? Is this money real? Are we ever gonna spend any of it?"
Yeah, I've been
You know,
saying,
you
yeah, that, I'm with you on that. That's true. There was something else I wanted to say about that. What was it? Oh, it's like I saw like those beams where it's like you get like, there gives you three options, and it's like you have to pick two, and it's like time, money, and energy. So it's like, as like when you're young, you have a bunch of time and a bunch of energy, but no money. And then when you're like a young adult, you have energy, but no time. And then when you're older, you have money and time, but you have no energy. Kind of like how the cycle of the lifestyle goes with money. It's like you never have the all three together to really enjoy everything. And so it's like setting yourself up, or picking a goal, like a realistic goal, where you're like, okay, if I have this much and I can sustain this, I can sustain this kind of lifestyle, and I can be happy living with that for, I don't know, 5 to 15 years, at least until you decide you want to pivot. It's like a financial base to be comfortable, like take away that financial anxiety, your family's safe, you're safe, you have your four walls around you. And then if you want to go to the next level, at least you have a strong base and foundation to do it from, where you don't have to worry about going lower.
Mhm, mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, right? It's about that security, you know.
Yeah.
And then so many of us have, our stomachs are bigger than our eyes are bigger than our
Hmm.
stomachs, kind of a thing. It's kind of like you're saying. So let's say somebody today is doing fine, right? Their life is going to be kind of the way it is, and making a great salary and all that. Then, and they can do all the things they want to do.
Hmm.
Then, wouldn't that be the number that they need
Hmm.
going into the future, minus some expenses? Maybe. It doesn't. It can be as complicated as you want it to get.
Yeah.
Want it to be.
It's definitely worth
Um,
thinking about for everybody in their like personal situations, going through all the questions and kind of thinking about it, what they want out of their financial aspect of their life.
Oh, 100%. Well, because even as we're talking about this, right, I'm 100% certain somebody listening has at least gone, toughed inside a couple said F this, right? The
Yeah.
hell these guys talking about bunch of crackpots. What are they talking about, right? Okay, so that may be true. Hey, you might be right. But you know what? You're still gonna get old.
Hmm.
And you're still gonna get to a point where you need to rely on your own finances, or you're gonna be living on the government, and then you don't want to be, at least not in the U.S. You don't want to be dependent on the government to take care of you,
Hmm.
because they're not quite so reliable,
Yeah.
And when it comes to that, and so what do most people have right now, right? Like on average, I think, dude, I don't even know what I'm not baby boomer. I'm a little bit after that, but I
Hmm.
think the number that I read is like the average person. it's like 100,000, 200,000, worth of value. And
Hmm.
that is not very much, right? And
Hmm.
so if you're not there, you ought to be shooting at least for that. At least
Yeah.
get to the average,
Hmm.
and then because you're going to have to do it. Otherwise, I guess the old days we'd joke about cat food and dog food, but now it's like otherwise we'll see you at Walmart, right?
Yeah. Well, no,
And
that's a big reality for some people where they have to work into their 70s and 80s because they don't have the means to support themselves, and they don't have a family to help them out or something like that. They're forced to work and they're basically in retail spaces because they need the income.
yeah, I know more than one 65 to 70-year-old who's working in retail just
Yeah.
for that reason.
Hmm.
And yeah, yeah, wish it wasn't that way but it is. Now, it's
Yeah.
one thing if you want to do it and you like it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
like
there
I
are a
could
lot of people who are in retirement who just decide to work because they just want to do something.
yeah, it can be super boring, guys, that's for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
retirement isn't all it's cracked up to be, right? But
Hmm.
if you look for me, I'll be a barista probably, or
Make me
baristo.
a
I don't know.
make me a mean cappuccino.
Yeah, I'll make something for you. I'll make coffee for you.
Oh wait, hold on. Let me play something to make it feel like we're on your stream a little bit. Hold on.
Uh-oh. Oh, yeah, the music in the background. Yeah. Hey, what number do you have that set at for loudness?
Right now, I have it about 35.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. I can barely tell when I have mine on, so I can't tell whether people can hear me or not hear me. If it's too loud, too low.
Right.
So I'm just trying to judge it.
Hmm.
But,
Well, dude, I think we hit the lower it a little bit. That should be good. I think we hit the hex fire, the fire stuff pretty good. I know you wanted to get a little bit into like icosahedron stuff because you have some interesting data, right?
yeah, I'll share some stuff up on the screen.
Throw it up.
I'm getting. I'm going to do a stream on this data stuff that I'm doing.
Mhm.
I guess I should explain that. I'm doing streams all the time on data stuff, but I'll go into a lot more detail. But I noticed some things about the new stakes that we made
Mhm.
on Pulse Chain,
Mhm.
and so I'll move pretty quick over to look at that. Um, So on our upper line here, you can see I looked at all addresses, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to capture all the open stakes for all addresses that have been, where the miners started after the launch of Pulse. And
Mhm.
then I was also comparing that to, how many of them are brand new addresses, and just trying to get the
Mhm.
data that far. Because some people are brand new to the ecosystem, or at least their addresses. But what I wanted to go after was looking at this, the new miner distribution. And this is where I included the Hedron stuff. So I'm going to go to this. And I was like super curious. I've started asking people in the community. I'll make it a lot bigger so we can see it on screen. I
Mhm.
started asking people in the community because when I'm thinking HSI, so this is looking at all of the new stakes that have been made since launch. And I said, just show me the ones that are HSIs, right?
Mhm.
And so I'm trying to get my head around this. Is like the way I've been dealing with HSIs, I would put them all out here at Quattro Cinco in this 10 to 55 range.
Mhm.
But only 16% of the hex that's been committed into HSIs since launch have gone out that far.
Mhm.
And so, like, I'm trying to figure out. So, what do these guys know that I don't know? Where they're staking for 5 years, a year, 4 years, 3 years. Why is 25%, 26% of the hex on HSIs going out between 1 and 5 years?
Mhm.
So I got more questions than answers. I mean, as far as talking with you about it, because I'm trying to
Mhm.
figure out like why this is going on. I don't know if you have
Mhm.
any insights onto that, because you can see their spread. I mean, like even less than 45 days. Is it just because the gas is cheap and they can do it?
I
I mean,
mean, this is all
why
on
is
Pulse Chain, right?
this is pulse chain? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think you were onto it when we were in the green room. It's probably it's just the security aspect of it, being able to transfer them across wallets. I think that you just get that utility that you don't have on native stakes, and the gas fee is so negligible on Pulse Chain. You might as well have that optionality. You know, That's where my head first goes to.
Yeah, yeah. That's where I was thinking as well. But what I was really going, when I started thinking about that, then I was like, well, wait a minute. There's some people maybe front running protocols here.
Mm,
Like for instance, Hedron on both chains is almost the same price now,
hmm
right? So what does that mean? Why is it that every other asset is 50% off? So
mhm,
anyways, I, I thought that would be interesting for people to see. So this is the
mhm.
distribution of the hex, and then I put a distribution up here too. So let me see if I make that a little
It's
bit
actually
bigger.
pretty impressive on how many of them, the percentage that are over 10 years to 5555. I mean, that's a
Oh
pretty
yeah,
solid chunk.
yeah, it is a pretty good amount.
Hmm
But this gives you a little different visual about how much is in each one of these bands.
hmm And
And
Lethal brings up a good point, or
I
Tom
just
C
hadn't.
does.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I haven't seen this before until I got this far to look at it.
hmm Tom C brings up a good point. It's like maybe they, instead of just like transfer between wallets, maybe they want the option to sell them on the secondary market too. It definitely doesn't make sense to do that for ICOSA because the time length is what matters there. Um, and so you're really getting much less ICOSA if you're staking less than 5555. So that they wouldn't be doing that to reserve the option to sell for ICOSA at the very least, you know?
Hmm hmm Yeah, I could
Um,
see that as well.
mhm. It
And
is an
then
interesting phenomenon.
perhaps
It,
it is simply because the gas fees. Like
mhm.
I wouldn't be doing any of this way if I had to pay $15, $7 to the HSIs, particularly for
Yep.
smaller stakes.
Yeah. I
So
think this is actually I think it's actually pretty bullish in a lot of the ways for like at least utilization of the Hedron contracts because people are actually using it for short-term stakes. You know, they're considering it. This is an option that's being considered by people who are staking their hex. They're like, oh yeah, let me use this other thing, and they're just interacting with the protocol more, and they're keeping it fresh in their minds,
yeah,
which helps the
100%.
stickiness. Hmm
100% there because I just the reason I was asking you about is because you're all Hedron and ICOS, I think, and I just didn't anticipate this happening, right? So
hmm
it's okay. I mean, that's why we observed the data. But I switched to T shares on this chart,
Oh,
and
nice.
you can see, yeah, 33% of all the T shares of the Hedron HSIs is out in that 10 to 15 years. So pretty good amount of it.
hmm
But we still got another good 20-30% kind of mid range. But looks like 17, 18, 19, 20, 30%. So like a third short, a third medium, and a third long, right?
hmm
So again, there's a lot of T-shares in there,
You know, it'd be
in the
good
middle of that.
if you could break that data down in terms of like wallet size, like how much hex does each of these wallets have, stuff like that. You know, like who basically like what size player are doing these short term HSI stakes. That could give
Yeah,
us a little bit
yeah,
more info,
yeah,
or at
yeah.
least
I didn't.
another peek into like why they might be doing that.
Yeah, I can tell you that the numbers look fairly similar. I don't have a filter on. Let me see if I have one that'll work for this.
Hmm
Um, but if we look at the overall stats here, this is that very first page. I didn't put a filter on here for HSIs yet, but what this is saying is, hey, look at all the addresses, and
hmm
I was surprised. The average stake principal is about 460K
Oh
hex.
wow,
That's a lot of hex.
that
I
is a lot of
saw,
hex.
and there's probably going to be a couple streams I'll need to do with this because there was a lot of detail I went into, and
Hmm
look at all these stakes coming through for, a million, 10 million, 15 million, but the average principal is 459 overall. New players, this is just new addresses that started afterwards. They're about 325. But yeah, there's definitely more detailed analysis available. But
what's the timeline on like when you consider an address new versus all address old? What's that?
the address never staked before Pulse Chain launch.
Gotcha. Oh, okay, gotcha.
That was
I wonder.
easy to go out there.
I wonder, and I don't know if there's a way to answer this question, but I wonder how many of them are like actually new people, or like people just making new wallets to stake on.
Yeah, there's no way
to know that.
There's no way to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we quite often we talk about quote unquote new. The reason I'm going down this rabbit hole is the day over day staker growth. And I wanted to look and see what that growth really was. Because within this on Pulse Chain, there are also hundreds and hundreds of 1 hex stakes. Right? And which kind of skews the numbers. And
yeah.
So why are those coming through like that? You know, why are we seeing HSIs for 1 hex? You know, why are we seeing HSIs? Because it's not just HSIs, right? But it could be native or otherwise. And all of that probably adds up to different game theory that people have, you know, that they're doing. Like sometimes it's erroneous, but some people maybe are thinking that 1 hex in 15 years is going to be a big deal. And then for a penny today, they can create a hex miner for less than a penny. You know, maybe I don't even know what the cost to stake 1 hex for Quattro Cinco might be, but maybe for a nickel, they can make a Quattro Cinco that's going to be worth hundreds and thousands of dollars in the future. Maybe that's what they're thinking. I don't know. Right.
I mean, I see the logic there, but also it just doesn't. If you think that way, like, why not just conglomerate them all? Like,
right.
What's the difference between 1 hex versus 10 or 100 or 1,000? Like, the price is like not.
Well, in the case of HSIs, it gives you the ability to break them up and sell them separately.
That's true.
Right?
That's true. Okay, that makes sense.
Like when I did my Wattses, I didn't do everything in 1 Watts.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense. If you're trying to sell them later on the secondary market, maybe like 10 years in, 11 years in, when they've accumulated value and we have a bigger price. That can make sense.
But I truly don't know. Yeah. And then
the other more insidious way is they're trying to just bump up the numbers.
Yep, that could be possible. As well, that somebody would do it. It's DeFi, so people can do that. I mean, I've seen zombie ghost stakes like that. You know, like G said, it could be testing, because maybe it could be testing now. Maybe they are doing some stuff. I guess. Because we certainly saw that on Ethereum chain at launch.
Yeah.
So that could be true. And like I said, I've seen some phantom staking where somebody will contact me like, "Did you see that 500 million hex that just got staked?" And they're like, "Oh yeah," and they go look at it, and they ended it like right after they started it. So they got the blast out that this big stake came out. And I'm not using a specific example; it's just happened a couple times. And then I go look, and they already ended it. And remember, if you start and end a stake, even in HSI within the same day time frame, there's no penalty.
Yeah.
So I've seen some people playing that game in that way. But the system has been the hex contract's been really standing up really well, because it's acting exactly as we thought it would. You know, in terms of things being like copacetic, that it's going to work, right? There's no like mega variation or anything like that.
You have any data on like how much hex is being staked in this downturn, like overall, like compared to like versus the top?
We have access to that data, sure. I mean, you mean like per day time frame?
I guess what I'm getting at more is like, are we seeing more staking or less staking now that the price is lower, kind of thing?
Oh, sure. Well,
I have a feeling it's less.
Well, it's split. So we have to talk. If we talk Pulse chain and not Ethereum, right? Then yeah, I mean, we can actually look at that. Let's look at where am I going to forget to that? That's right. I think which link I want to grab. I do have one link which we can show real quick and go after. The thing about it is that, of course, Hex on Ethereum is a little bit different than Hex on Pulse chain, and in part, that's one of the reasons I was looking at the information we were just looking at, is because we just have all this information coming up now about all these new stakes, and I didn't know if it was more Hex being staked or not. Now I can tell you, based on the number of T shares, that the effectiveness of the staking is low. Right?
Less T shares are being created.
Yeah, versus the ones that are ending. And so that's been true.
That makes sense because the T share is going up. That would be two good metrics to juxtapose. Number of new T shares, like a daily moving average of like T shares created versus like how much Hex is being staked. Because like you would expect the number of Hex to stake go up, but the T shares to go down because the T share rate's going up. You know?
Yeah.
So this is this site.
You see this guy here? This is ignore that it says eHex up here at the moment. I'll make sure that I get to the right one. So this is definitely the eHex chart. So you can even see on the eHex that we're having a slight increase over time, but it's pretty jumbled, right? It's pretty volatile. But we've been seeing generally an increase on average of the Hex supply stake. Now let me grab the other one. I really meant to grab the Hex scarcity model instead, this is the eHex scarcity model. Let me pull that one up for us. And we can actually see. I haven't done any vids on this yet. I got to do one because I now have the two. But the two different models. It's a pain in the ass though, right? Because it's getting pretty It's getting pretty tiresome talking about this and that, and and then people kind of lose it over time. So this is the Hex, and what are we sitting at here? Like 62 billion staked. And if we go look at the other one, we're looking at 60 billion.7 on eHex and 62 billion on PX. So you got about 2 billion more being staked over there. But again, it's slightly on an incline. But T shares are coming down, which means that if we're getting more stakes out there, more Hex staked out there, but T shares are coming down, what that means is that they're going shorter and shorter periods of time, which which brings us back to what I've observed the last few months. We're down to like the average stake length of open stakes that started this month is like a year or less. And then we're just not, we really saw those drop down over time.
That doesn't surprise me because in the community, there's a lot more talk about like market cycle timing and stuff. So I think people are really looking to play the price game a lot more this time around than like when things first started, where everyone was thinking stake long, stake big, stake long,
Yeah. And what do you think? Because you think there's an opportunity here with people thinking that way?
I think it probably just reinforces that if you have the ability to stake something long, that's probably going to do pretty well. If you want to just like take the contrarian view, and that's not to say you shouldn't take advantage of the market cycle. I think we should, but if more people are trying to take advantage of it, that probably means less volatility because more people are trying to sell at those higher prices. And so the longer you can punt out, the more you can punt out, the longer, probably the better you're doing in the long run. But you just have to kind of give up that short-term gain of being able to flip some of your money by selling a top and buying a bottom.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, if you're here if you're here for crypto for 15, 20, 25 years, you think that's how long you're going to be around, you're probably giving up a great opportunity, but not thinking about the long term.
Yeah.
Now, I grant you, just like you said, I think it's important to know about the short term, but you'll never have this opportunity again in the Hex ecosystem to get in at this combination of price and T-share
Yeah.
rate, because no matter what, it's going to probably cost you in fiat a lot more in the future. And I have estimates out there, where if Hex goes to $2, we might be seeing like a $90,000, $100,000 T-shirt.
Yeah. I mean, those numbers are definitely possible just with the way the system's set up. We get that price appreciation plus the T-share rate going up. Like, that's just how much it costs. Which is pretty crazy if you think about it.
Yeah, crazy.
Well, I think last thing I want to talk to you about today is how was your talk with Lamont Black?
I thought that was pretty awesome. I'm working on my skills, but nevertheless, he does a good job, and he's got some concepts that I really like that he's brought forward in different language than the rest of us might use, right?
Yeah.
Like he's come up with he's coined this term hexomonic. What does he call it? Hexonomics. Yeah, hexonomics and hexnominous, and and he's talking about things like the Metcalf bet, which I love that he gave it a name that explains it to people, because it's kind of what I did with staking. I think it's probably what you did, right? We're betting that there be adoption and therefore price appreciation in the future. But I like that he termed it the Metcalf bet.
Not like a guarantee, but like a bet. Like, hey, like I'm putting my money over here in case we get this big network effect, and then I've won if that bet pays out.
Yeah. And then the other term I asked him about was this hexonomy terminology. We were saying, hey, listen, inflation is only paid to miners, right? And so because that's being paid to miners, is that the trade off in value, right? I mean, it kind of dovetails into that whole bet, right? That Metcalf's bet type of thing. So I thought that was good. I like the guy, and obviously I've seen a lot of people come and go in Hex, and I've seen some come in. Maybe it wasn't quite nefarious, but with agenda. And I think his agenda is education, and that's what he's doing.
Yeah, I think he's providing a big service to us, giving us the language and giving us the language to talk to people outside of crypto, for sure, but also giving us some validity in terms of he's a professional finance guy. He has the degrees and the CV to back that up, and he's like finding legit value in Hex. I think one of the biggest things he talks about is like how it's not a Ponzi, just because it needs growth of the network to go up in price, right? Because he's basically like, well, that's everything. That's everything in business and finance. You need more people coming in for it to grow and succeed. I think he's doing really good. He's providing a lot of validity for us and a really good philosophical foundation to go forward when we talk with people outside the Hex community.
Yeah, I think he is too, like you just said. But I would describe him as stopping short, as in validating that it's good or bad. I think he's presenting the information the way he sees it, and I like that. It's kind of like I said this to him in the stream. If you watch the stream, it's one of my hot buttons, right? When I'm talking to somebody and they're like, what gives Hex value? There's no value in Hex. And I'm like, well, it gives Bitcoin value. Well,
the mining.
Well, people gotta buy it. Yeah. That's how this is how all this crypto works. And I think crypto bros are the worst about this. Very hypocritical. There's some bad projects out there for sure. and you have to
Hmm.
be careful of pump and dumps and scams and everything. But in general, if you can push the button, take the pill and believe in crypto because
Hmm.
people give it value because community wants to trade it.
Hmm.
It doesn't that apply to everything that's similar set up? I think it does,
Yeah.
and so it's a little hypocritical to be like, no, because I don't like it, it's not good. So
Hmm.
now if they want to talk about things downstream, yeah, of course, you talk about that. You don't like the founder, okay, what factors that have, or you don't like the tokenomics, that's fine. Talk about
Hmm.
that,
Yeah.
but just out of hand crap with a
Hmm.
no basis, so it just throws me off.
Yeah, I agree. I think maybe I framed things with how he's talking too positively. He's definitely just laying out the facts as they are. But at least from what I'm seeing, the things that he's laying out can provide a good basis for like actually forming arguments for like why hex is it's valid to speculate on top of hex, basically.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
that it will
yeah,
not that it will succeed or that it should, but like, hey, like the rules that we have and what's going on over here, like it's valid to think that this might have more value in the future or might
yeah,
garner a bigger network effect in the future.
yeah, and so certainly pointing out those possibilities. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Awesome.
yeah,
Well, real quick, I guess
100%.
we'll end it
I'm
with
looking forward to more conversations with him.
me too.
So,
I want to have him on my stream more fairly regularly, maybe every other month or something like that, just to see where his head's at over time and just document kind of what he's thinking about, um, and for me to learn some more too.
Vibra,
Yeah.
I watched your stream last night. I
Oh,
did,
nice. Yeah.
or this morning, one or the other. I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah.
In crypto land, I don't even know what goddamn time it is, but time
Right.
of the day.
Let's get thanks for the question, Viber Finance. He says, do you think the 4HR's coins pumping at different times this cycle? I think they'll, yeah, probably. I think probably it would be reasonable to think that Pulse Chain would kind of take the reins first and then maybe like Hex on top of it or like overlapping, but it might take a little bit of time lagging for like Pulse X and Ink to pump,
Yeah, I'm gonna take a wait and see approach to this, but
Mhm.
I certainly think they can all pump together because
Mhm.
they're tightly bound. But does that mean moment to moment? They'll be hitting their peaks at the same time. Probably not, but I think probably the same time frames. So like kind of
Mhm.
time frames. Probably the greatest difference may be e-hex to hex, maybe.
Mhm.
Just
I could
because of the
see,
lag.
yeah, I could see some periods of time where something like Ink or PulseX kind of decorrelates a bit and starts going up pretty rapidly, like kind of like has a big volatility swing to the upside once Pulse and Hex have shown some real strength, like solid like price support at higher levels. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah. All
It
right,
does.
Max. Hey, Sloth, want to do a regular Hedron stream?
He
And
distracted me. He
hey,
distracted me.
RH,
Yeah.
Max, you see what I'm busy with, right? Should have scheduled it out first, buddy. I am busy in
Hey,
September.
watch this. I'll stir him up. I'll stir him up.
Yeah.
RH Max never invites me to any of his shows.
Oof.
I
Guess
tell
you're
you,
not a
getting
maxi
stirred
enough.
up. No, he's invited me a couple times the last few weeks. I've been busy each time. I'm like, sorry, man. I got to wash my hair. I'm going to the movies.
I gotta wash my hair.
I'm like,
Oh my
I
god.
gotta go. I gotta
I'm
go
gonna use
watch.
that.
I gotta go watch the P dye chart paint. I can't come on stream.
Dude, I'm gonna use that.
Uh,
Somebody asked me to get out, like, hey, Sloth, you want to go out for dinner or something? Like, nah, I'm busy. I gotta wash my hair.
yeah, yeah. That just
Oh,
shows
man.
that I'm a lot older than you because that was like a common saying in the 50s and 60s. Man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's time to
Which
bring
by
it.
the
It's time to bring
which
it back.
which by the way, I wasn't around in the 50s. All right, just saying.
Just to
And I
make it
don't
clear.
remember the 60s.
Well, Max, you shoot me a DM. I'll give you my calendar for October. How does that sound, buddy? Throw you a bone. I know you rely on us for your content, man.
Oh,
Now that gift's gone.
I don't know. You
Oh,
better
man.
watch out. You might get validated.
Oof.
Might
Yeah,
validate
he's.
you.
I pick on him too much, and one day I go to him to help me set up a validator, and then he gives me scripts that hacks all my stuff.
Yeah, the dude, the stuff that he's been putting on validation's awesome.
Yeah, all jokes aside,
he and the
he
other
does great
people in
work.
the
Yeah,
you know, he and the other people in the ecosystem that talk about me. I'm loving validation, man. I love it.
yeah. I
I
hope to
like
be
it.
able to get into it one day, but now is not the time quite yet. But one day, maybe I'll
Well,
drum up one validator.
Alex, it appears, if I'm just kind of like divining from the conversation, Alex appears to be moving a lot faster and closer towards people being able to validate and through a central mechanism without
Yeah.
having to run your own validators.
Yeah, I think so some kind of thing, plug and play product where you can plug it up, put your wallet in, and then he kind of runs all the extra software stuff on the background that you can connect to. And then
Yep,
also
yep.
the rocket pool fork thing is going to be huge as well.
Yep, and Feeder's got one as well where he's hosting,
Mhm.
you know, and you can,
Yep.
you know, he's doing cloud hosting. So there's some different stuff out there.
Well, ChrispyMan, I think we've filled a good hour and a half. What do you say, man? I think we did
I
a
think
good
it's
job.
good. Has it been that long?
I
Hour
think we
20, yeah.
hour 20
Yeah.
minutes, man.
You can
So
never have
everybody-
too much fun.
Yep. Everybody in the chat, please go subscribe. ChrispyMan at hexfire.io. Check his stuff out. Check his stuff out. Give him a like, comment, subscribe on all his stuff on YouTube. If you want all the data that he does have a subscription plan for hexfire.io. So I highly encourage you to check that out. If you can find value in that data, go support your man. He puts in hard work, and I know I appreciate everything you do for the community, man. So thank
Hey,
you.
thanks, Sloth. And back at you, dude. You know it's the same on the other side, and I appreciate that. Yeah. So I have that Patreon out there, and we're coming. I've really been taking a long time to get through all this data, but eventually, I'll have this new website up. The dev is ready to go on, just waiting on me to make sure I have the charts and stuff, and that'll open the doorway for people doing more ad hoc reporting of their own, and maybe some
Perfect.
plug and play, slicing and dicing.
Well, when that goes live, we'll definitely bring you back on, let you debut it, get you a little media campaign to get some activity.
Creating a media frenzy.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, that is it for us. I'm going to stop the music, let it get quiet again. Peace out.